And here we go. Okay, welcome everybody. This is Kristen Smedley with the Thriving Blind Community, and we are tackling, everyone in the world is tackling the issue of the pandemic with the coronavirus, which brings up all kinds of health issues, safety issues. And last week, as everybody knows, we were all in a oh my goodness, let's all get healthy and safe and establish some new benchmarks and procedures and whatnot all around the globe, especially here in the United States. And now, as we are trying to get our kids back to some semblance of normal when they can't get into their normal routines in their schools, everybody said, let's do online education. Brilliant, right? Fantastic, yes. However, as all of these things always end up happening, it does not work for everybody. And there are some things that lots of folks aren't considering. And there's some things that you all probably aren't realizing are happening behind the scenes. So, all of that said, I have with us tonight one of the most entertaining, intelligent, brightest, but coolest cats you could ever come across, my buddy Kayleigh. And Kayleigh is in New Jersey and dealing with all facets of the issue of accessibility for blind students and students that do not learn in the conventional way in the classroom, the challenges that are presented right now with online education. So I am going to take a back seat here and I'm just going to guide this conversation. Kayleigh is going to let us know what is happening in terms of access, what is not happening in terms of access, and where the gaps are and how we can fill in. So first of all, Kayleigh, the fact that you're tuning in with us at this time of night, I know that you have had classes all day and your workload, I think that I would have to take a deep breath, need to do some yoga, and then maybe have a shot of whiskey before I could even hear every single thing that you do. But tell us a little bit about the classes that you're in, the type of school that you're at, and the where you live.
So I live in Freehold, New Jersey, but I attend Howell High School. I'm currently enrolled in the Scholar Center for the Humanities program, which is a specialized learning center for scholars particularly interested in English and history. We take collegiate level English and history courses in addition to advanced placement or AP courses in our other subjects that aren't specifically guided by the program. So my junior year course load specifically entails 4 AP courses and 2 honors courses. So I'm currently enrolled in AP Biology, AP Psychology, AP English, AP US History 2, Honors Pre-Calculus, and Honors Modern Art in America, which posed its own little bevy of challenges. But we were able to overcome those through the incredible support of both my teacher and my team. But it
Okay, so
has been
let's let everybody take a breath for a sec and catch their breath over your course load that you just talked about. All y'all that are complaining that you had a bad day or you had something hard you had to tackle this morning, like, come on, right? 4 AP and 2 honors courses. And I joke a little bit because I want people to understand that you are in this elite program of academics is your thing. It is extremely important, and the workload that you have to access is a lot. So this is a huge issue for you to be able to access every ounce of information. And the reason I bring that up, Kayleigh, is because a lot of times people will say, well, you know, you're advanced in this class, so if you miss this one piece of information, it's okay. And you would, no, you can't in those level classes. And those folks that are, a lot of the people actually in the Thriving Blind community have kids that are in accelerated programs. So they get, if you miss one little piece, then you're way behind everybody else, and it's very competitive in your classrooms, I'm sure. And they're college level too. And those folks that are watching that understand the AP process. I mean, we just went through it with Michael, my oldest. You get college credit, so that means that you get to skip over some of the classes, and then you're in the higher level as a freshman, which is a challenge. So we're just establishing the fact that you can't miss out on work because you need every bit of information. Okay, and you're in the state of New Jersey.
right.
And you just mentioned the one class. What happened with that one class, but you had some support?
So part of the humanities agenda is that you have to take a certain selection of courses each year. They dictate what English class you take, what history class you take, and your elective. So the junior humanities class always takes the honors modern art class in order to fulfill the performing arts elective, and it was a visual performing art in this case. And I fought to get out of it and take music theory instead because I prefer an audio performing art, but they held firm and said that I could overcome the challenges that the class posed and that the teacher would work with me. I was skeptical going in, but I remained open-minded, and I don't regret the decision to work with my teacher at all because she's been extremely supportive, very accommodating. We basically accommodate every assignment because it's all centered around your ability to take the work of other artists and utilize your own creativity to develop your own unique style. So my coursework is more based around what I can do and what the art or artist means to me. And we adapt it in such a way that I'm not penalized if it's not objective or the shading is not perfect.
Mhm.
I'm penalized if I forgot to apply a specific technique. So I'm not graded on how well I apply a specific technique. I'm graded on how precisely I try to apply it.
Cool.
So she's making the accommodations around that.
Okay, very good, very good. So now that everybody, you've set the stage incredibly well for what your programs are like and your achievement level and whatnot. Tell me what it is that you're working on right now in terms of the accessibility issue. Let's just dive right into it and put it out there on the table.
Okay, so the current accessibility issues I face, and I know that others in my district face, is that remote learning for us is completely technology based. And I have to access multiple visual websites on a daily basis. For example, my honors pre-calculus class is completely centered around Khan Academy right now. And for anyone who's ever used it, you guys know that it's video based and you have to be able to follow what the instructor is representing on the screen. And he doesn't verbalize every step. But such words as over here and this number or this equation aren't going to be beneficial to someone in my position. So I have a lot of those problems. And then I also have a lot of timed assessments that are being thrust my way. And that's in direct violation of my IEP because I'm stipulated to possess time and a half for all graded work. So we face a lot of those challenges on a day-to-day basis with this remote learning. And there is also a lot of other, with biology, it's lab based. So there will be diagrams and videos of instructors on YouTube performing labs. And that is a whole nother complication in of itself because there's no way to circumvent that unless I have someone next to me explaining it. So that's another sort of problem I run into. And my district is currently facing the complication of no technology services. So right as this all began, none of us had any technology support. So as we were switching to a technology-centered curriculum, no one was there to help us.
No
So
tech
it was
support.
none. It's been very, very difficult. I contacted the Commission for the Blind, the president of the Commission for the Blind for New Jersey, and we are in the midst of communicating to see if we can rectify the situation for all of us, for the sake of every student that's facing this problem, because this isn't just centralized around one people going through it. There's many of us that are in AP courses and we don't have time to wait or try to figure it out on our own.
Okay, and what did the Commission of the Blind say?
It was a communication that we're still going through, but the initial response was that we would be able to have technology services and they were going to do a reevaluation to ensure what we needed most. But last night, we were informed that the technology specialist that was assigned to the caseload that specifically I was a part of is no longer going to be able to work with us. So today, I sent out, along with many other individuals, I sent out emails again to the president of the Commission for the Blind, and we communicated about that new installation of information. And we are currently in the process of attempting to see if this individual who teaches us can get contracted with either the commission or privately, or what we can do about that going forward, because the response about how it will happen within this week, that's not going to help the 5 assignments I have to do tonight.
Mm-hmm.
So I need somebody now, and I know a lot of my peers are struggling with that too.
So let me ask you this now, and I ask this because I realized today as I was on interviews and stuff that people were shocked to find out that our district here in Pennsylvania isn't going online until at best next week, and other districts are already online. When did you guys start your online learning?
Yesterday. We started yesterday.
So you started from the get-go then, advocating for the same, wait, this isn't accessible. Did anyone start even before it came online, or did it just come online and you went, oh my God, this isn't accessible?
We were not informed as to what specifically we would be dealing with. I don't think the faculty or the students had any idea. It was more of a trial and error process. But when it comes to students with disabilities, trial and error is a little bit riskier, because we find out exactly as they find out, and students with sight are more inclined to be able to circumvent the challenges, whereas we have to find alternative methods of doing so. So immediately yesterday morning from the get-go, I had a psychology quiz, and I have a 98 average in AP Psych, but I got timed out of a quiz, and it was 10 questions, and I got timed out as I was completing question 9 or 8. So that really impacted my score. So I had to start advocating at 10 in the morning, and I haven't stopped, and they just keep coming. Everything keeps coming. So I don't think that my school district or the state even knew the depth and severity of what this was going to entail and how much work was going to have to go into this.
So it's interesting. So for the folks that are watching, because I know that this is going to go far and wide outside of those of us that are entrenched in educating blind kids, these teachers, so that psych teacher has known you since what, September? You've been sitting in that classroom,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
And it's been all year that you've had extra time for a test. And one thing I should back up and say is that, and I've had to explain this a lot to folks in our world, and you probably have too, Braille just takes longer. You know, and I didn't realize how much longer it took and the impact of that until it was actually my sister-in-law, Michael and Mitchell's aunt, that's a teacher, said, hey, we need to advocate for longer time in tests, in SATs and all that, and because it just takes longer to manage Braille. It has nothing to do with processing the information. So I want to make sure that everybody that's watching is clear on that. It's not a processing issue. It's just a mechanics issue. And then you throw in this whole thing about now it's online and you're trying to see if it's an accessible website and all of that. So of course the time and a half. So that issue alone can carry us into the next piece of this. What are your thoughts? And remembering that we're gonna smile and we're gonna be as positive as we can, but I want all of your passion in this too. Your thoughts on, I saw it come across my Twitter, my Facebook, my emails, everywhere from the AFB about a senator out there trying to get a thing passed where American can sidestep all of the accessibility laws for education right now in this crisis. Give me your thoughts on that.
Okay, so before I begin explaining what exactly Senator Lamar Alexander's bill would entail, I want to get to the root of why he is trying to go about this. It's entirely a funding issue. It was Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell. It was part of a larger plan to allocate as much funding as possible to deal with COVID-19. So the fact of the matter of funding, that's why this is happening. It's in response to COVID-19. But what's actually happening is a Tennessee senator that's the chairman of the Committee of Health and Education and the Labor Department in the United States Senate, he is proposing that because of circumstances, we waive any requirement under IDEA, and that stands for the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act. So what that would specifically mean is that anything from due process, FAPE, which is free and appropriate public education, reevaluations, IEPs, all of that could be waived at any moment for any child. And that would affect over 7 million children in the United States. And not only blind students, students of every disability, whether it's a learning disability, a physical disability, this could affect every disabled student currently traversing the educational system. So
Wow.
what that would do going forward, it's not just going to impact our immediate academic futures, which of course it will, but going forward, this could allow for the Secretary of Education and States to bypass and water down legislation such as the Hallmark Special Education Law and the Rehabilitation Act of 1973, in which these are extremely influential pieces of legislation that give us some of the educational and other civil rights that we need and deserve. And if this act or bill is passed, that could allow for these acts to be overrun or significantly bypassed, not enforced to the best of their ability. So this bill could be extremely consequential for not just the foreseeable future in the process of dealing with COVID-19. This could affect us for years and years to come.
So let's do a thing right now, and then when we're also going to do it later. What could people do? Because I know that I'm not even opening the comments just yet to look at them. What's happening on our Facebook? I know that people that know my boys, that know you, that know other successful blind students in the thriving blind community that is firing them up right now. The fact that I'm wearing my Penn State hat. That I should have told you that in the beginning, that Kayleigh, I'm having some bad hair days lately. I just am. It's been a long couple of days here as I'm recording all kinds of stuff to get some resources out to people. So I do have my Penn State hat on, and Michael is doing his Penn State curriculum from here in our house, which is killing my bandwidth with my Wi-Fi. It is. And he's trying to access stuff too. But, he got into, like a lot of you guys, he got into some very rigorous, competitive, Harvard, for heaven's sake. He got into these programs because he's had the tools and resources. And that's what I think a lot of people don't understand. You start taking and chipping away at these tools and resources and laws that make sure that school districts give kids these resources. You chip away at a fraction of those, and it sets all of you guys back. So far, it's I'm going to think of a family-friendly word to say, ridiculous. I'm going to go with ridiculous for right now because it gets me fired up too. Before we move forward, what can people do that are fired up like that to help this?
So I would say to anyone that possesses a passion about making sure that this doesn't go through or that wants to try to deal with this is raise your own voice. I've always said, and you can see I started a hashtag on Twitter, injustice won't cure Corona. And I've said that passionately and determinedly. And I think that it's very, very true. And so what I did in accordance with that is I started a change.org petition. And I explained in a nutshell what this bill would do if enforced. I created an alternative and I published it out into the world. And in a couple of short days, we've had over 350 signatures. And many in the comments section, you can post a comment about why this affects you or why you feel that this is necessary. And we've been getting so many heartfelt comments about why this can't be passed. And not just from students with disabilities, from family members, from friends, from educators, everyone, not just people that are going to be directly affected by this. And there are multiple other petitions out there. There's another one created by, I think, either the American Federation of the Blind or the National Federation of the Blind that has over 1,500 signatures. And that explains what the IDEA does and states why we need to help it. And there's mine with what explaining it and the alternative that I created. And there are others still. And there are Facebook posts circulating about it. Everyone has been raising their voices about it. And I think that's part of the reason that it's starting to create this movement. So I would continue to encourage anyone who feels strongly about this to raise your voice and to contribute to that movement, and to call your senators, to email the Senate. You can do that. There is contact information available and accessible to you. Use it. They are, some of them are working remotely, but you can circumvent that by emailing them. Show them and tell them why this can't happen. So
Awesome.
they speak for the people, and if the people don't want this legislation or can't have this legislation, they're going to respond to that. So they need to know that this is something that they need to vote no on.
And you know what? I got to tell you this story because I know that this is important to Americans, and I know that it's important to, I know that people think that elected officials have their own agendas. And in my life and in my experience, that has been opposite. My congressman that isn't in office anymore, and he actually passed away not that long ago, and his brother is in office. I'm like, oh, it's the family business, you know, keeping on the working for the people. But a couple years ago, I needed to get attention for rare eye diseases and accessibility and Braille and stuff. So a long story short, Congressman Mike Fitzpatrick had helped me get a National Rare Eye Disease Day established in Congress, because I was like, somebody had said go to your state, and I'm like, there's 50 states, there's one of me, how is this possible? So he goes, forget it, let's do a national one. Like, he was such a cool congressman, and a lot of them are, is my point, that they really do want to work for the people, which is what you said. Well, he actually, you know, it was a bill that advocated for things like this, you know, accessibility for the blind, more all kinds of support for blind Americans. But him and his staff submitted that bill in Braille, and it was the first
That's
legislation in
amazing.
US history to be submitted in Braille. And at first I was like, that's cool. And you know, I have a little bit of you in me, I think, because then I was like, wait a minute, why did it take so long? You know, it was like 2015, right? So I'm like, all
Yeah.
right, I'll still celebrate everybody. But my point here is that it went through this country like wildfire. People stood up and cheered, and a lot of people asked, why did it take so long for Braille to finally be in the legislation? Why? And people are still cheering that. So here's what my point is. Americans are really into all kids and all Americans being able to access the stuff that a lot of people take for granted, right? Just being able to click online in your pajamas and do your class, like Mitchell's dream. My Mitchell, it is his dream to sit in his pajamas and go to school. He just doesn't want to have to get dressed and get on the bus to do it, right? But the fact that you guys can't access every part of that, when so many of you are our elite students, right? It's just crazy. So I know that people watching this are going to be like, oh my God, I want to help with this. So the fact that they can call their senators and the representatives, right? That's one thing that they can do right now and say, if you let this guy from Tennessee, and I'm sure that that's highly insensitive for me to say this, you know, congressman, senator, whatever it is, this guy from Tennessee, no, this cannot happen for all the reasons that Kayleigh just talked about. I'm sure that they will do that. What I'm going to do is, when we wrap up, after we close this out, I will go in and put if you send me the link to your change.org, which actually I think your mom did send that to me. I will put that in, that people can go on and click on there, and then we'll start sharing all the posts that are out there and put this all over the platforms.
That would be amazing. There's like a default donation button at the bottom, but they don't have to do anything about that. It's just the signatures that really matter. And they can comment if they desire to, but there's a little text field at the bottom where you can just put your name, and then you can explain why this affects you or why you feel that you want to contribute to this movement.
And then
And
if people want to share their stories there, or if they want to
of course,
share and tag
there's no
here, we can do
character
that
limit.
too.
So you can say anything that you want to, and other users will be able to see it. And then at the end, whenever this goes to its zenith, I can create a signatures PDF and share that with the Senate, and it will show every comment that was ever received about this, every name that ever was signed, all in one document. and I can share that. And there actually is a senator that signed that petition that I
Stop it.
created.
Do you remember who it is?
Declan, Senator Declan. He signed it. It's a New Jersey state senator, and he signed it. And I was very humbled by the fact that he would take the opportunity to support what we all are so strongly advocating for.
Well, you know, I'm competitive, Kayleigh, and I pit people into all these kinds of crazy things. And you know, now I'm going to be, I already was tweeting with my congressman, Brian Fitzpatrick. Now I'm going to be like, look, dude, we got to get on there with Declan. We got to get everybody in this change.org, because that is just, you know, here's the thing. And I'm sure that Senator Declan is on board with this because he's so proud of you. And I know that our congressman is so proud of my boys. So of course they want to see you keep moving forward and remove, I mean, these are barriers that we can remove. Okay. And I always say this to people. I put it in perspective. There are barriers that we cannot remove for the blind community. As much as Michael would like to get in a car and drive down the, well, actually Mitchell would love to just drive down the street and he can't see a darn thing. It is a barrier right now. Michael gets on email with Elon Musk constantly to say, give me one of your Teslas, right? Whatever. That is a barrier we cannot do anything about just yet. This accessible learning is something that we can do something about. You know, so this is why I'm like, okay. And this is why I feel your passion, my passion, your mom's, and everybody that is like in an uproar that somebody want to block this. And I'm sure that at some point, you know, this person from Tennessee is thinking, well, it's going to hold some school districts back from putting the learning out there. Too bad. They've got the people in place that they need to figure it out. They're figuring a lot of stuff out. We're all figuring it out. And to be perfectly honest, you know, earlier today I'm saying, well, we need to have some patience as we're moving through. But the kids that are blind and visually impaired, as you know, have had to have so much patience. If there's a picture of patience, it's you guys. With teachers every year that have to come on board with understanding your learning styles and how to get materials in, like you guys are the picture of patience. For the love of Pete, this is one of those things that like, okay, we can be patient, but we got to move forward. And having a bill
Right.
that takes all of this off the table and allows people to get away with some stuff is just not, that's not the answer. Working through it as a team and getting things accessible as fast as we can is an answer, not removing all of it and chipping away at your progress. That's not the answer. So in my humble opinion, but hey, anyway. So let's get everybody into the change.org. Let's everybody give a shout out to Senator Declan on Twitter, Facebook, everywhere you can, to say thank you so much for supporting this, because obviously that senator gets it and is proud of the work that and achievements that you have, Kayleigh. And I'm sure that we'll get more people on board. And then it is, I believe it's the AFB that will also put their information out there, because they have a nice short summary for folks to also have information on who's behind what and who to contact. And I gotta say, Kayleigh, like I'm always thinking you're one of the coolest people that we know, and I'm always proud, especially when at the Braille Challenge and you like defeat everybody at the big thing in LA. But I am so proud to know you and to watch you communicate things in a way that people understand, first of all, but that I think that what I really love the most, especially about this interview and watching you go about things, is you're such a role model for not just sitting there and complaining. You don't just sit there and complain. You figure out how to get people together to move stuff forward in a way that people are going to fall in love with this cause, as opposed to, you know, so many kids either complain and just don't do anything, or they get their mom to do it, right? That is a whole nother interview we can do someday, because let me just say, I found out that moms are making calls to colleges and going to college interviews, Kayleigh. I'm like, what? Luckily, see, the way I look at it is you act crazy like I do, and you wear a crazy hat all the time and have some bad hair days, and your kids don't want you anywhere near their college interviews. That's how I play the game. But anyway, but you don't just sit there and say this isn't fair. You say, here's like you mentioned a little while ago, not only do you present the case, you gave an alternative, a solution. right? You're not just sit there saying, this
Right, of
isn't
course.
fair, you're not doing this right, this isn't okay, which it isn't okay, but you're giving a solution. And that's what I want to share with people, the solution, the way to move forward and to do this together, that then, you know, who could have thought that we would have this huge crisis, right? But now when you know better, you do better. And you're teaching people, they now know better. So it's time for everybody to do better, you know?
Of course.
Awesome. Hey, look, I know that you have so much work to do, and I know that you guys are having family time, right? And I'm going on and on because I
Oh,
want this
it's
out there.
mostly working time. Trust me, I have another like 4 hours ahead of me.
Oh, man. Well, all right. Let's let you get back to your work. Thank you so much for coming on here tonight. Kayleigh, thanks for the work that you do.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate you taking the time, and I really can't even put into words how much it means to me, everything you said. I really do want to ensure that my fellow blind students and I have a way to succeed in this crisis. And I understand the problem here with funding, but I really, really want this to work for both solutions, for providing funding for COVID-19 and for also not taking it from a place that can't afford to lose it right now. So I'm hoping that with all of our support combined, we can ensure that injustice really doesn't prevail here.
Way to go. Thanks, Kayleigh.
Of course. Thank you so much for having me.